What do you think the future is going to be for design? Do you have like a prediction for what's going to happen in the next 5 years in the design world?
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to die. It's my...
Very dark, yeah.
That is true. No, I think, I mean, it's going to come into evolution, and I think it touches a bit on what I said already.
Welcome to a new episode of the DesignQA podcast. I'm your host, Maddie, and in this episode, I have with me Pacheco. He's a product designer from Portugal. He worked in a lot of different companies. He's currently in Dashlane, the password management software. Pacheco is a really interesting person. He's not just a designer. He's a family guy. He's someone who's crazy about sports. He got a really cool origin story. So let's get in.
But we'll be fine. This is the DesignQA podcast.
Well, hello, Pacheco. It's João Pacheco. I will start this episode with asking João to introduce himself.
Yeah.
Hi, João.
Well, first, Mahdi, thanks for having me here. Really happy that you're starting this, and looking forward to following the next episodes. Yeah, my name is João Pacheco. I don't know how many times I've said this in the past, like when introducing myself to people, but João is a very common name and a very hard name to pronounce. So even friends in Portugal, they call me Pacheco because it's very common that everyone calls me João. My family calls me João, but everyone else calls me Pacheco. So if I'm in the street and someone calls me João, I might not look. So Pacheco is fine and it works for everyone, and it's way easier to pronounce. But João, actually, I will start with already 2 tips. If you want to learn how to pronounce João, there are 2 ways. Mm-hmm. One is if you're a fan of Star Wars, and if you remember the lightsaber, the sound João, that is the sound that you should say. So that's the first one.
Love it.
And another one is in a Formula 1 car, when it passes by, wow, that is a sound as well. So those 2 already help you a lot with Portuguese and Brazilian pronunciation on João.
I can't tell if you are joking or if you're for real.
I'm serious. This is when people ask me, how do you pronounce your first name? These are the 2 things that are the 2 tips that I give to you.
Love it. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into design? What's your background?
Yeah, so very early, I guess most of designers, they start by liking of drawing, or at least back in my day. And there was only like 2 things that I really liked. One was sports, and another one was drawing. At some point, I had to choose between, in Portugal, we had on secondary school or middle school, you have something where you need to pick between like already some sort of a line or a career path or something. And in my way, it was between sports and arts. And I chose arts first because sports, it would meant for you have to be a teacher back in the day. And I was really into like practicing rather than being a teacher. So that's why I chose like the arts sort of thing. And that's how I guess that whole thing started. And then one thing led to the other. I got a degree in university in Caldas da Rainha. It's a bit in the north, where I had my first experience like leaving my parents' house, which is also like really nice. I learned a lot, had a lot of fun, a lot of drinking as well, as you should do in university. But yeah, I met a lot of people, and it was quite a fun experience. After that, I started my official career, I started like a small business as a freelancer already during university. So there was like I would say like for a few months just to test out things, what I learned. And I was doing a lot of Flash websites. So this is maybe how old I am.
So what was it like? Like an agency, a Flash design web design agency?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, just an agency with a few friends from university. We're doing like websites and mostly Flash, basically.
I didn't know you were an entrepreneur in the past. I love it.
It was like that. We didn't make any money at all. It was like.
Okay.
But it was good just to test out and learn a few things, even to talk to people, talk to let's say customers back then. It was a nice introduction to the real world, let's say. Then after that, I started working in agencies. But before that, I ended my university when there was like a lot of like it was a lot of financial problems in the world. It was 2009, 10. So to get a job, my strategy was, okay, I'm going to to take a course on something that I already know, so I could stand out and really try to talk to people, know people, and see if I can. And that's exactly how it paid out. So I took like a small course in Flash, something that I was already into it. It was ActionScript 3, so it was like no one uses that today. Apple
Right.
completely killed that, and it was for a good reason.
Oh, well, yeah.
But yeah, but I took a course, and then I started working in agencies like most people like they do.
But what
in
was your
design world back then.
strategy in taking a course in something that you are already familiar with?
I was familiar with, but not 100%. So I could already like to the teacher stuff that he was taking part. He was working like in an agency. So my strategy was, okay, I might stand out from the class and show something that I already know and be a bit more advanced and really learn new things and how to develop my skills within this technical tool and see if they can connect me with anyone. And that's exactly what happens. By the end of that small course, he connected me with an agency where I started working there. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. It paid out. Yeah. Strategy is a big thing, as you're going to learn
Yeah.
throughout the talk.
Nice.
Yeah. Right after that, so I started working in an agency. I did an internship there, and then it evolved like to full-time employee. I worked for that agency for 3 years, and then I decided to move to another one. So I worked like in 2 agencies, let's say for 4 years. But then it was like a very fast pace, and I really think it was really good and I think it's really good for anyone that wants to start a career to start working in agencies.
Mm-hmm.
First, because you're required to think fast and really to pick up the pace. But something that was missing for me was you end up shipping things that you don't know what happens to them. You don't know if they're effective. You don't know if they're good or not in the sense of being in the real world. So that's when I decided to do one thing that I always wanted to do, which was living abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I moved to Dubai,
Yeah.
where I worked with. It was a very interesting time of my life. I always wanted to work outside of Portugal, being abroad for some time. So I decided to take that leap of faith and go out for a year working in a product that I never had experience before. I don't know how it happened or how I got it. Now that I take a look back, there was like, how did someone hire me like with that amount of experience? Well, it turned out it was actually good. Anyway, actually, I was very proud of the team there and what we achieved during that year. It was,
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
But that's incredible. But can you tell us a little bit on how you got that job? How did you find out about it? How did they hire you?
Yeah.
What was?
So I applied to a website that I don't remember the name anymore, but it was like remote work. It wasn't still a reality back then,
Yeah.
but it was just starting. But I don't remember the name of the website, but I just applied, and it was a British guy. It was Mark. We had that I believe hired both of us. They were looking for like a digital designer, whatever role you want to call it these days. And I applied, had a few interviews, maybe 2. It wasn't that much. And okay, let's go to live in a place that I never been. I don't know anything about the culture. I've read a few things here and there, but yeah, that was it. So it was a plan. I already had my girlfriend back then, and we decided, okay, I just want to do this thing, go there for a year. We made a plan. Okay, we're going to meet in a few places. We met in Turkey in the first place, and then she went back to Dubai, and I came back to So it was a whole year planned by that, but it was really special in that sense. But yeah, I applied out of nowhere, and I got the job. It's quite
incredible.
Or maybe no one wanted to go to Dubai.
No. Yeah, I think they made the right choice hiring you because you were like doing great things from day one. Like I still remember the icon set that you created. I loved your way of doing things at that time.
Yeah, that particular project. So we were doing, just to give some context, we were doing like a whole revamp of a few things inside the Dubizzle. It was the name of the product that we were working. And one of the things we were already thinking, this was back in 2013, 14, of having like a design system, having like some sort of system approach to the product. So when I joined, I had already some experience on iconography. And what I tried to do was to fit the new logo that was designed within the iconography. And it was like a translation of that, which was very fun to do. and we had like all printed in that war room. Yeah, it was a nice little project.
Yeah, I love it. So what happened after that?
Yeah, so during that year, at some point, I mean, everyone was telling me, you're not going to stay in Dubai for a year. Everyone says that you're going to stay longer. But I'm very stubborn and I'm very decided in my things or the way I live. And I would say, yeah, it was only a year. Then I made my plan to quit. And when I came back to Portugal, because that was always the plan, I did another thing that I never experienced before. I experienced like little in the beginning when I started working in agencies, but or in a university, which was working as a freelancer and as a contractor. So, and that is exactly what I did. I started, I came back, I didn't have anything put in place, but I contacted a few people from agencies that I worked before, and it was actually quite easy to start working from there. I got contacts even from previous people that worked with me. In one of the occasions, it was Mark that worked with us. And then for the next following years, 4 years, I was working as a freelancer and as a contractor. Back then, it didn't seem that it was that much because I was just taking time from time, and I was working for a few weeks and I was having a few weeks off. And now that I think you look back, having a family completely changes. I don't know if I would be able to do that. That would stress me out like way too much, like being for some time without work. And but it was the right decision, and it was like a good amount of time for you to get experience, to talk to people, really put myself out there, make these like financial decisions. What's my worth? Should I increase the price for this or for that? And be aware of how much time do I take on doing specific things. So because that translates some money back then. So it was a good period. I ended up like working for one of the biggest projects. Probably it was working for 3 UK. It's a communications, probably one of the biggest in the UK. And I was working there as a contractor for helping them to take a systematic approach to similar to what we did in the past. And I was hired because of that as well. Yeah, which was fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then after that, I was a bit tired of being a freelancer as a contractor. I think it happens to most people that end up working like this. I was missing working in a team, working with something that you could see and evolve. And that's when I stopped the freelance part and starting applying for jobs again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm currently in the company that I'm working at today, which is...
Which company is that?
Yeah, it's called Dashlane. It's a password manager, now more seen as a security solution, more focusing B2B lately. And I was the first designer to be hired when we opened the Lisbon office. So we
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were present in Paris, which was like the main place where the whole thing was born. Then they initially went to New York and opened an office there for sales and like all the other reasons that it makes sense to have a business in the US. And then they were thinking about opening an office in Lisbon, and that's like I was the first designer to be hired in Lisbon, which was very nice.
Incredible.
To grow the team. And so far.
How
it's
did it
been-
feel to be the first one on the design side in your city?
Yeah. So when I was hired, if I remember, our design team, were about like maybe 10 to 15, I would say. And all of them, they were in France, in Paris. And I was hired during 2019. So we were like using Zoom and to connect and everything. But I would say the team was quite used to be all together, and I was the outsider. So it was, for me. So I was always like trying to listen what they were saying in a room, even with the rest, like not only designers, but with engineers, with the PMs, with whatever. Then COVID hit, and basically everyone were in my situation. So
Nice.
for me, it didn't change absolutely anything. I was still in like here or going to the office every day. But yeah, it was like we're stuck with the Zoom meeting. So for me, it didn't change much, that environment.
Nice.
At least.
Cool. And how big is your team now in Lisbon?
Now, I would say we're about the same amount of people, but actually the design team is about the same, but we're quite split. So after 2 or 3 years of me being like the only designer here, we start hiring more in Lisbon. I would say like now we're between half, I would say, between the two countries. Now we don't have any design representative in the US, but between Paris or France and Portugal, we're about half.
Nice. So what do you do at the company now? What's your role?
Yes.
We didn't get to that. I'm very interested in
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was hired as a product designer. So I was doing regular product design things, which encompasses, for me, the way I like to describe is not only being on the customer side of things, which is crucial for our work, but is also to make sense of how does the customer need also going to contribute to a business need. So I think, and we need to, as a product designer, we need to sit between those two and really try to make sense of those two all the time, because there's a balance, and sometimes you need to weigh one more in like little decisions, and sometimes you need to weigh like the other thing. So I was hired to do that, to work on something that we didn't have back then, which was the family plan. So we had quite a few plans already. We're shifting from B2C to B2B already back then. But yeah, and I was hired basically for the first team of, we called it, what was the name of the... It was just a pod, let's say a regular pod, like a PM, some engineers, designer. That was part of that team to work on that. And throughout the years, so we shipped that family plan thing, which still, like, now it has a different name. It's called Friends and Family, but it's still like ongoing. I think it took us a year to get it out there. Yeah, there was a lot of
That's a
back-end
long
work that
time.
we had to do. Yes, it was quite a long piece of work. My work actually was faster than that, but then in the end, in terms of development, it was worked throughout like probably more than that. And then alongside that, I joined another team, which was the autofill team. And for maybe people or you that don't know what autofill is, very simply is basically a mechanism or a machine learning mechanism that recognizes specific fields, let's say a login, which is like a username or an email and a password, detects that, goes and fetches that to the database and puts that in the right place. So basically you don't need to do anything. You just wait, click autofill, and that's it. And basically the engine does it automatically for you. Back then,
So
yeah.
is that like a feature in Dashlane where
Yes.
if I'm visiting any website, let's say I'm checking Gmail, I wouldn't have to enter my username or password. I would
Yeah,
just hit
basic.
autofill and to log me in.
Yeah, in our case, you don't even need to do anything. It's just we autofill for you. There's an automatic, like you see like that thing going on pretty fast, and you're logged in.
Nice.
Yeah, which is back then we would having like the machine learning. Sometimes it's flawless and it's amazing, but when it fails, we need to provide some sort of like, because it fails, that is just the way it is. Not all websites are built the same. So like if a field is developed in a way that is not correctly done or displayed or being called out, our engine doesn't know if that field is that same or not. So we need to build like some fallback solutions, and that's mostly what I did, like specifically on Android, which we had a bit more control. And then we actually joined the team together with those two, with all the platforms basically, on web, mobile, and
Nice.
and iOS, which is like it's a multi-platform solution basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and following along right after that, yeah, I worked on that team for a bit of time. Then at some point, I had the opportunity to work on something that actually wasn't touched for a long time within our product, which was sharing. If you can imagine within the security world, sharing something that it makes a lot of sense, but also is very sensitive in terms of security. So actually, it made sense for us to have a dedicated team, which we allow that to happen, but we haven't touched on anything related to sharing for a long time. So that's when I joined that team probably 2-3 years ago. And that's what I've been doing since then. Alongside, it's been 6 years since I joined the team, and I went from product designer to senior product designer to now being a lead product designer. Yeah,
Awesome.
which is like, it follows like the path through, so going up to the career ladder.
So can you tell us a little bit about or tell us more on how the things you did in the past influenced where you are at right now?
Yeah.
Was that all because you worked in the agencies world for a while? Was that the most influential thing, or were there other things that helped you be in this awesome position where you're at right now?
I would say everything, of course, helps to become the person that you are, right?
Of course.
Like they are like all those experiences come together in one way or another. But if I can pinpoint one thing that I still take, and I think it's an advantage for me, moving to Dubai and having like being exposed to so many cultures and people there, they were not like me at all. They were very different. I think that was like it's a big plus that I take away with me, because it exposed me to things that it wasn't the same way I was seeing it. When you talk to people, yeah, I always get curious about things and you ask them differently. So like in this position, I think it's very important that you first know how to communicate, because in the end, you can be a great designer and you can be very good technically. If you don't know how to explain or communicate what's in front of you to others and how that whole thing comes together, I think you're going to miss out on a lot of these opportunities. So how to talk and communicate and be able to think fast, I think it's something that agency days really got me or teach me. Okay, how can we move from this, especially when you have constraints? Because if someone that works in the product says, "Oh, this was shipped 100% like the way I designed it," I don't know where do you live. That's not the world that you live, and that's why you shipped Design QA, because those things happen, they exist. But how can you go bang and really, okay, if we have this constraint, how can we go around? How can you work on something like a vision piece? Okay, if we don't have any constraint, this is the way it looks. Okay, with all these constraints, how can you go and take a step back and build, okay, iteration 1 can be like this, but then the next one can be already closer to the vision that you're, and how can you portray and really communicate that with others? So I would say, yeah, the agency part gave me really the fast thinking, and then being exposed to people, to different people, like to different culture, I think really helps to be empathetic. In the end, that's part of your job as well, is like, how can you think like users? How can you put yourself into users' shoes, and how can you basically solve the problem for them in the easy way?
Right. You just reminded me of something a little strange to remember right now, is the user testing sessions we used to do to Bizzle. I think we used to go to like a coffee shop or something and
Yes.
interview random people.
Yeah, this was funny. User interviews or talking to people, it can be weird at sometimes, but
Oh, yeah.
user testing, you need to, I think now we're in a different world where we used to be back then, because we were trying really to make things work. We didn't know how to do them. We wouldn't follow anything. There were like a few things here and there, but just go and do them and then see what happens. We were lucky because Ubisoft was very well known. So it was quite easy to tell them, okay, we work at Ubisoft. So they will already know like who we were or what we were intending to do. I would say like we had the easy path.
Right. And for our listeners, Dubizzle is the equivalent of Craigslist in the US, and in Europe, I think, what is it? The biggest?
Well, OLX, maybe.
OLX
here in Portugal, or
yeah,
it's a thing to post like items for sale. But in Dubizzle, we had more like their like housing, branding house. Like that's where I found my apartment. It was on Dubizzle.
Yeah, me too.
It's quite big. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Now let's move to our next segment, which is the QA in the wild segment, where we talk a little bit about your experience performing Design QA, how you and the team are currently handling Design QA tasks. When does it happen? How does it happen? Want to hear it all?
Yeah, this is quite an interesting one, because I think our environment in the company that I work with is somehow maybe a bit different from the current ones. We used to have like a dedicated QA or QE team. That's way like a quality engineer or even quality folks like working with us. And since there was like an evolution to have that like to fully dedicated to the engineers, and they're like a whole team of tooling that really does that job. So I would say, and going back to the communication and really knowing how to talk to people, that is like a key element that you need to be good at if you want to have that collaboration cycle going on. If you think about quality, in the sense that the way I do quality, like from day to day, let's say the things that we're working, there's a like a natural cycle, and I think it's in the end is You need to be able to work with engineers and the engineers that they're working with and really try to explain what you want to get, how it makes sense from the get-go, but also from the end. And what I mean by that is you need to involve people like quite early, and that's quite important. Even before you start thinking, because in the end, what you're doing is a contribution among like other people. And what you're doing in the end is visual. Everyone has something to say about it, if it's visual or even if it's like UX writing. Like what you type is also like it's going to be meaningful for everyone. If you can involve the people that that they're going to be involved like throughout the whole process quite early, that's going to alleviate a lot of the questions that it's like imagine that you're landed. Sometimes I feel like some engineers they're being pulled out, or this is how they serve. They are serving a plate that they need to finish, but they don't know any context about that plate. Like imagine how would you feel like you might not know like why it happens or why you're doing it. So I think it's on us designers that you're there from the beginning. Really try to get the answers to, okay, we're doing this because we're solving this by removing this metric, and that's like where the PM is a great partner because they help you to shape out that. But also when it comes to the customer side, you're the one driving that, and that's how you need to portray even towards engineering. Engineering, they're not only there to push code, I believe, and they're there to contribute and to help like to the whole experience. And it's the way maybe a bit too much to answer, not very specifically, but yeah, this is you need to involve people from the beginning and really make them feel that they're part of the experience as well.
Yeah, I love it. But what will you do in the case when the engineer isn't someone who wants to be super involved in the design process? Because that is the case in a lot of teams where the engineers, they have a lot of different projects that they need to be working on. And your project is just one of those priorities they have or one of the to-do items in their list. How do you deal with that?
I think it really depends and also depends on the personality as well. There are some personalities of some people that they see it work like that. They just have another task to do and that's it. And it depends on the project as well. It depends on how people would like to work. Like, there are so many little variables, but in the end, I think what works best, if I can describe, is really when you're feeling that you're adding to it. And I think even if they have that task, it's very different if the engineer have that task and they really understand what they're doing and what they're contributing versus just another task that they need to tick. And it really depends on the environment and really depends. But I mean, for me, I would prefer to talk with engineers before they have something, a ticket or whatever, to have a chat with them just to explain, okay, this is what happened, this is the context, this is why we're doing, this is why it's meaningful for the business or not, this is what is important, this is what we're going to do now versus this is what we might do later. Tell me what you think. Can we do like a few things from the vision piece right now instead of things that we can do it just today, just to take off? And most of it is, that's another thing, and more specific to the security world, which is what's technically visible as well. And probably it's very different from maybe building a website versus something that is a product that is very engineering dependent, because there are things that you can do or cannot do depending or paths that you cross or you cannot cross. One of the things like there's always encryption attached to the things that we do. So there are things that you cannot display to a few users versus others. So yeah, technical visibility, I think it's one of the aspects that you need to involve engineers even more, just to understand like what's under the hood.
Right. Yeah.
Push them. Work with engineers, not give them work.
Right. Yeah. I love that. That's actually key to getting everyone work like a team, like an actual team. You don't want them to feel left out or to feel that you are just giving them orders. You are collaborating with them rather than just giving them things to implement for you.
Yes,
I love that. Yeah. But let's go back to your workflow and the way you do work with the engineers. Let's say you did collaborate with them from like the first minute. You got them involved in the design process and they started doing the work. And then at the end, tell me what happens towards the end. How do you ensure that what you guys agreed on is implemented properly? And how much do you care about it being pixel perfect or implemented to your spec?
It really I think one of the things that we don't need to, as designers, it depends. I think I care more about something that breaks the experience instead of something being pixel perfect. And those two things, I think you need to take it with a grain of salt as well. And maybe as a designer, it really depends on what you're trying to portray, and if really follows like a brand or something, or if it's something that it's a bit more free and okay, let's move on to this thing, and it's fine if it's not pixel perfect, but it really feels wrong for the user. So that's when there's a stop. And I think, okay, this is really affecting the user. It's going to be confusing. So confusion is something that I think I care about. Just to go to the process, like very specifically, what we do is, and this is actually interesting because it's not even something that myself, I organize. It's between the PM and engineers. We have testing parties. And what this is really we try not only to see if the functionality is there, but we also make comments about in terms of specs, if it's all good, if it's working. And then there's like some design overview on that. And those are things that can be pinpointed as, okay, this is fine if we move on right now, or this is going to the UAccept like page or list to be taken care of. And again, the way, or I think my job into doing those things, I always take it with, okay, is it breaking the experience? Is it like making confusion for the user? There are some heuristics that you can run through, but always from the flow and from the experience standpoint. I think it's, even within our product, I think our organization, we don't think as much as flows. We still think too much as features. But in the end, what we're affecting or the changes that you're pushing to the user, those are going to be flows and experience. And there's like a road ahead in terms of what the user is going to experience. So those are things that I always take care of versus being pixel perfect, because those are things that also can be pointed out within the design system, which we haven't touched yet, but it's a big piece of the puzzle. And when it comes to quality, that we can pinpoint out. So as a product designer, the way, or within the organization, the way I see myself thinking more and more is more taking care, okay, what is the outcome of this experience that we're pushing in terms of strategy, more versus the little pixels and how this component is going to be affected. But also I make the connection with the design system and with the designer that we have, the system designer that we have here, which is like a big contribution to any organization that don't have a dedicated department person taking care of that. They're missing out quite a bit. Now with AI, you would have quite a few things that you can go around. Actually, the organization, we're doing something about it, and we have actually a hackathon going on about that. But still, if you're working for humans, somehow you need some sort of human input. You can have less human input, but you're not going to be replaced 100%, right?
Right. Awesome. So what you mentioned about AI is a great segue to our next segment, which is the pixels and predictions. Let's talk a little bit more about that. What are the AI tools, if any, you are currently using in design or in your workflow in general?
It's fair to tell. Just a brief story. When the whole AI came out, I'm not saying that I was quite skeptical, but in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is just another thing. Like it comes and goes. And in my opinion, it didn't change drastically, and I'm going to explain why. I think the key element about AI is going to be included within our daily lives. But if you remove the word AI, or if it's there, it's going to remain the same. Basically, the way I see it is AI is here to help us to be fast, to get answers sooner, to get better answers that sometimes is still not the case. So I don't think we're still there yet in terms of accuracy. That's the way I'm saying. It's still like you need to still have to go through multiple times until you get like really like that engine nailing. But at some point, I believe that we'll live in a world where you remove the word AI, it's going to be part of our lives, and you won't hear the word AI anymore. It's like everything will have some sort of learning mechanism that is going to give you an input or output that is going to make your life easier one way or the other. So I think it's going to be spread out in every shape or form when it comes to technology. The way I use it, personally, and then I use ChatGPT, of course, to do a few things like to groceries or what are the things that I did last time and to remind me of a few things. But when it comes to work, you still haven't change much, but I
Mhm.
mean, I think for writing is one thing that really helps you to put your thoughts in one place and really gives you some sort of structure. I think it's really good for that with words, and I think that's going to be one of the things when it really understands the the logic behind words and the logic behind context and what you're saying, and it really understands like really everything about that, about what you're trying to put out there. It really gives you those answers. I think it's going to be it's very valuable in terms of actual work. Yeah, I mean, I use it mostly for writing.
Hmm. When you say for
And
writing, like writing what exactly?
writing whenever you want to say something to a user and you want to sound it like more on this tone
So
or that
UX
tone.
copy.
UX copy, we have UX writers within our organization, and I still like the human input because I like engineers, like people in the beginning, and have full context, especially when it's like a big thing that touches multiple platforms in one. Something that I haven't tested yet, but I'm looking forward to do is on testing things on mobile.
Hmm.
And when I say that is historically doing user testing on mobile is something it's hard for you to do. To either you do a prototype on Figma and you put that in a link and users they open, and it's always weird because they're there to use something that they're not used to within their phones on a time they're not used to. So there's always like you need to take it with a grain of salt, and there's always like head bars on top of the thing that they're actually using. You cannot mimic the real world scenario when testing on mobile. There are things that you can convey and go around, but I think now what is faster is for you to ship something that is it's really resembling what you have within your design system and just build it for you, and it's ready for like to test. I think for testing, I think it's great. I don't think it's 100% ready for scale, and maybe we can talk about that, and it's probably going to be soon, and probably you can be the person who can testify for that if it's ready for scale or not. Like, can you build a whole product for scale using only AI? I think right now at some point it might break, but also I don't know because I don't have that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's
well, yeah, there are multiple people online like doing that already. People with when we say, so just to clarify, when we say allowing the AI to build like a production ready software or something, or like build an online business, basically, there are multiple people who are already doing that without having technical background. So it is possible. However, like you said, it's not straightforward. It's not something that you can ask like an LLM or an AI to do for you, and you just sit in the back and watch it do it. You still have to be hands-on. You have to learn a lot of small things, a lot of small details to ensure that the AI is doing the things you want it to do. And there are still a few technical pieces that you need to put in together by yourself for the AI to be efficient or to do the thing you want it to do. For example, if you want to build like a SaaS product, you will need a database, you will need user auth, you will need a place to store your files. A lot of AI models or AI apps or vibe coding tools like Lovable or Bolt, they have an integration with Supabase, which is like like a what do you call it? Like a backend as a service that provides you with the database, user auth, file storage. But you still have to know the basics of Supabase in order for you to be able to plug it into the product that you built with Lovable or Bolt. So, like you said, there are still some things that you need to do manually or by yourself to help the AI. But eventually, I think we are heading towards that, like the AI being able to do all these things all on its own.
and it follows good into what I think should be the key things that I think someone would need to invest in terms of like, so if we think about like early career versus now, I would be way more technical in the beginning in terms of like knowing the tooling. Like back then it was Photoshop and now it's Figma, and being really good at technically. While right now with all of things, I think there's going to be like so many shortcuts to know those things that you don't even need to know like the technical basis. So I think the effort is going to be around strategy and output, and really, okay, if I do this way, it's going to have this expected behavior. So knowing that and having that experience, I think is going to be key in order for you to model and to funnel the right choices in terms of a product. And I think this is like the balance that we're going to see through. So from 0 to 1, you can go, if you have a good idea, you, of course, all the things that you described, you need to know like the basics and what you need to have in order to have a product. But at the beginning, it's like you need to know, okay, where I'm going to sell my product, where are the things, where is the market? AI is going to be able to answer a few things, but if you don't know how to communicate it, if you don't know how to be there, you're going to fall short probably.
So one last question in this segment. What do you think the future is going to be for design? Do you have like a prediction for what's going to happen in the next 5 years in the design world?
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to die. It's my...
Very dark, yeah.
That is true. No, I think, I mean, it's going to come into evolution, and I think it touches a bit on what I said already. In a way, I think there's going to be a lot of shortcuts. The way we need to think and evolve in terms of strategy, that's going to be the key part of it. It's like really knowing okay, I have this problem, right? And I have AI to give me a few things, but in terms of, okay, how can I get that faster? AI is going to help me to do that. But in terms of outcome and expected behaviors, you're still going to be the owner of that. And you're going to have like a bit of the AI. At some point, you won't hear the word AI at all because it's going to be everywhere. This is what I believe. And more in terms of the design world. Are we going to have fewer people doing a few things? I believe so. That is like the norm. If you go back to the, like, I don't know, the revolutionary in terms of like factories and everything. Everything was done by hand, but then at some point, factories, like the machine, would make it faster. I think we're going through the exact same thing. Is it going to be faster or not? I mean, I think it's a matter of time and see how the technology evolves.
Yeah, the future is going to be...
I gave you no answer, basically.
That's all right. Cool. So let's move to our next segment, which is the Pixel Patrol segment, where we take a look at a website or a product together where we do a quick design review of this product, look at the product from a design perspective, and try to analyze the decisions made or the decisions behind building it and what could be improved in this product. But for our viewers listening in, if you want to see the video, you can watch it on YouTube, or if you are using Spotify, in Spotify, you are able to see the recording of the show.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Try to be as descriptive as possible. And before I share my screen, so this is, so back when I was working in agencies, I used to take the train every day to go to, and we have quite a few strikes. They're known to be like that. So this is my payback to them, because they used to have like a very like shitty website, and I haven't taken a look at this for a long time, and I know that it is new, but and this is going to be, let's say, a fresh eye taking a look at it back. I was just had a sneak peek, and there's already quite a few things that are pissing me off, but we can take a look at it back. And yeah, let me share my screen. Yeah, so this is the train sort of system in Portugal. I can actually zoom a bit. And let me put in English because this is in Portuguese. So this is let's say a public website. And why I chose this is because, so there's a lot of foreign people coming to Portugal or to Lisbon. It's getting very popular. So I wonder if probably most of them buy through the machines. But if you want to do a longer course, probably you come to the website and have to go through this experience. And these are really quite a few things that are weird for me. The most natural one is this background of a train moving fast. And we know that we don't have fast trains here. So sorry, this shouldn't be a fast train. There's nothing like this. Actually, we have from Lisbon to Porto, there's quite a few ones, but still. Yeah, we can maybe try to book something and see.
Yeah, let's go through that, because that's a typical flow here.
Yeah, so there's already one thing which is like you click and there's no selection on, and there's actually, I was expecting like a drop down actually to see the places where you can book from. But actually you need to type and see.
Mm. Yeah, for someone like me, like if I was visiting, I would have no idea what to type in here.
Yeah, maybe you know already, maybe you might like being from, not
I know
being
city
from
names,
Portugal.
but
Yeah, exactly. You probably need a few hints, so it would be actually better if you have the full list. Yeah, it shows you all the way through, but still, oh, and this is the error state. Also, you can see it's quite pixelated. So yeah, no SVG.
yeah.
So yeah, that's another less point. Sorry, CP. That's, yeah, no good. So yeah, let's say that we want to book from, and this is a bit confusing as well because Lisbon has, so these are 3 stations. So probably I would be very confused, like, okay, which ones are which?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to know prior. So probably, yeah, website is already done for someone that knows this thing, but for someone new, yeah, it's quite a bit of a weird experience. And let's say that I want to go to Porto. Now, this is when it gets tricky. Also because these are all names of stations, and it's very weird because some of them, they're not even in the Porto, the city. So something that I could have done, I think it's actually have in brackets like the Porto, like the city. As you see, like in most places, when you go to like the Google Maps and the rest, so that at least you could know like which ones are part of the city and which ones are not part of the main city. Yeah. And now we have this. This didn't pass the accessibility test for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's
Text.
not enough. Yeah, there's not enough.
It looks like it's disabled, but maybe these days they are fully booked and they don't have any.
No, you can select them. It has a, today, clear, close.
Yeah.
Okay, you can clear.
I
These are
think when you
actions.
go to next month, they look
Yeah,
better.
okay,
Yeah,
but
I don't
only
know.
if you select.
Okay. So,
Yeah, this
looks
is a
okay
component
here.
that is
Yeah.
already way too much developed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then submit. Now you have the times in a very big table.
So how do you select one of these, or how do you book? Or is this
So this
just
is-
to look at the schedule?
Yes, I think this is what I'm trying to look for. Okay, you have probably your tickets there, so you have an account. But even back to the results list. Yeah, see, these ones, okay, if you want to buy, it's in a radio button in the... Oh man, this was
It's an
just
interesting choice.
lazy, not the
control.
best one, if I may. Also, I don't understand why these are not available, and only these are, right? Yeah, exactly. If I click here and here, okay, I need to go all the way down to see the buy.
That's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not great. But let's say that, okay, we want one, at 7 and arrive at, that takes 3 hours. And then we come back at 2, at 11. We click on buy. And all of a sudden it's in Portuguese. So that is another thing that is not
But you
great.
did switch to English. Why did it switch back to Portuguese?
See, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it went all the way to another, I think this is another service. And why I switched to Portuguese. Well, yeah.
How? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
How would you improve it if you wanted to rethink this?
Stay localized. If you go back. Wait, now it's in Portuguese. It's much better. It's better looking. But actually, it's just the image that is maybe different. Okay, there's quite a few
Less
issues here.
distracting.
Yeah, it's different. Is this a A/B test? No, actually, this is no, it's the same. It's just another area. No, okay, this is the main page, and now they have another area. Yeah,
And it keeps switching back to Portuguese.
Yeah,
when you
Portuguese to English to... Yeah, it doesn't maintain. So as a principle, if I'd have to solve this whole experience, so there's the whole UI little things that I think it should be fixed. They should be accessible. It's like it's a big train website. Probably this is not going to pass the European Act of Accessibility, which is actually due in 2 days. Or actually, it was last week. So actually, all the websites that part of Europe needs to be AA on the WCAG list of accessibility. I think this wouldn't pass. Maybe it'd be good actually to do a pass here. But in terms of experience, if I'm going to choose English, just maintain the language up until the end. And if you have to change from one platform to the other, at least let the user know that you're going to change platform and that the experience is going to be different and you're basically leaving the website, which I believe that is what occurred. Get rid of the PNGs. Come on. This is, we're not in 2000s or 90 something. It is like, just use SVGs. Come on. And if I would have to start that by scratch, probably I would follow something like buying as an inspiration. I mean, it's done there. So buying a flight ticket, and I know that is like flight companies, they invest a lot in terms of UX and even in terms of conversion, like things that work or not. And I will take a look at those as inspiration.
Excellent. Are there any do you have any good comments that you can give about this webpage? Are they doing anything right?
In terms of if one good thing is, this used to be way worse. So this is my first compliment. But this page actually is quite clear, straightforward. It's not that bad in terms of this. I don't understand. Like, again, online ticket terms and conditions and everything is like in a, and probably this opens just another block. Yeah, this should be a separate page. Yeah, buttons are big, they're clickable. Then I don't know why there's another link on down below. Probably they occupy this whole thing with the menu. There's a bunch of cross-selling that could be probably having its own space. But yeah, it's much more clear and much more than it used to be. It used to be a 800 by 600 website before, back in the day, not that long ago. And that's why I was curious, and that's why I picked this website.
Cool. Awesome.
What about you? Would you buy a train ticket in this website?
I would buy a ticket from this website if I had no other choice. Because I did buy tickets from like weird looking websites in the past while traveling like in Europe. So I think most travelers or tourists are in a way used to these kind of things or these kind of websites or experiences. But I will always try to look for alternatives in Google whenever I see something like this. That's one thing. And the other comment I would have about this website is that I'm not sure if I would fully trust it as something official. I'm always skeptical whether this is the official website for the trains in Portugal, or is it not? Yeah, I usually do a lot of Googling before I purchase.
Yeah, having pixelated images that they don't help, right?
Yeah.
It really looks like a fishy website.
Right. Awesome.
Okay, there you go. CP. If you need help, can give you someone to work on this.
Yeah, if they need some tips, they definitely should reach out to you, since you're an expert in the field.
Yeah, I'll connect you with someone. I have too much stuff to do.
Cool. All right, let's move to our last segment in the show, which is the segment where I would ask you a quick questions, and I expect you to provide me with quick answers without a lot of thinking. I want to hear what's at the top of your mind.
Let's see.
So, what is the one underrated tool or workflow hack you would recommend?
Talk to people. Keep talking with people. Even if it's your family around, don't be shut in a door and let time pass by, and really start doubting yourself about this or that. Even if it's that little of thing, is this button correct? Talk to people. That's my go-to strategy.
Love it. One thing you wish the design industry or world to stop doing?
Stop talking so much about layer names and focus on what matters. I've been seeing some arguments online, and I'm crazy. Like how people they spend time talking about like things that don't really matter. If you want to name your layers, name your layers. If you don't. Just time is really precious. Just investing in what really matters, even for you or others. Just be kind to yourself and others as well. Yeah.
Okay. Should designers code? This is a really old question.
It's a really old question, and I know that we're very different in that sense. You code, I don't code. I used to, I know. I would say yes to understand what's behind, if that is what it takes to understand what's behind. No, if you can find a way to understand what's behind. I think that's the really key piece. And it really depends on your environment. So the answer is yes, if that's required and if it helps you to become a better what you want to be in terms of your job. No, if that really is something that you don't like and is not required for what your intentions are. So yeah, quite a dual question.
Makes sense. Yeah. If I had to answer this question, I would say no, even though I code, especially now with all the AI tools and all the changes coming to the industry. I think programming or coding as we know it is going to go away.
Yeah, it's going to reflect the change. It's more like, again, if you need to understand what's under the hood, if you understand without coding, you don't need to code at all. That's
right. I agree. Awesome. So just before we finish up, do you have anything you want to plug in, like a link to a website, to your portfolio, to a project that you're working on, anything that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I'm one of those designers, and maybe there are many out there. I don't know, many. And actually, the people that I follow, they all have their portfolio up to date. I don't. I have, apart from design world and everything, I do triathlon. I have 2 kids. So those keep me a lot busy than so I always catching up. I'm updating recently, but sometimes I turn it off, I turn it on, but I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram. I think that's the one that you could reach out, and the name is João_Pacheco. I think that's the one. And let me see if that's correct, so I don't say something that it doesn't make any sense. Let's see. I don't know my handle. So that's how I advertise myself. Yeah, it's João_Pacheco. Yeah, it has everything there. If you don't find it, it's because I turn it off for a bit. Sometimes I switch off like the socials for a minute or two just to go out and focus on what matters, and then I'll come back.
Cool. And where else people can find you, or do you just want them to find you only on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn? Find me there. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn is always there. That's where I watch what's happening in the product or design world. There, reach me out there. Either there on I'm mostly active on Strava because I swim, bike, and run as well. And on Strava, probably you're going to see something every day from me there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I will take all the links from you and put them in the show notes for everyone looking to find you online. Well, with that, I want to thank you again for your time and for this fun conversation, João.
Thank you very much, Maggie, for having me. And have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you all for joining us and for listening in. Please subscribe to the podcast in your favorite app, and please don't forget to rate us. This will help us a lot. And share this with your friends and anyone who is curious in the design world and looking to hear an inspiring story, because Joao's story is definitely inspiring, and I think you will enjoy it, and your friends will too. With that, thank you all, and we'll see you in another one.